All right, let's talk about Germany and China. We're talking about two absolute economic giants who have just decided to hit the reset button on their entire relationship. Now, why? Well, it's all being driven by this massive trade imbalance, and trust me, the stakes for the global economy could not be higher. So let's get into it and break down exactly what's been going on.
Okay, it all boils down to one single number. Get this, 90 billion euros. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. By the end of 2025, that was the sheer size of Germany's trade deficit with China. And look, this wasn't just some number on a spreadsheet, right? No, this was a huge symbol of years and years of growing economic friction. Something had to give.
So, that begs the question, right? What on earth happens when a trade problem between two giants gets this big? Well, what happens is a super high-stakes diplomatic visit, one that's designed to change the entire game.
And yeah, that visit was the reset. We're not talking about just another routine trade mission here. No way. This was a really carefully planned, strategic effort to completely recalibrate a relationship that's worth literally hundreds of billions of euros.
Okay, so let's set the scene here. Picture this. It's February 25th, 2026. That 90 billion euro deficit is just looming over everything. And German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, he leads this major business delegation straight to Beijing. The mission? Pretty straightforward, really. Meet with President Xi and Premier Li and figure out how to restore confidence and, reopen those crucial doors for German businesses.
Now let's dig a little deeper into that number. Because honestly, if you don't get the scale of this imbalance, you won't really get why this meeting was so incredibly urgent.
I mean, the gap is just enormous. You've got Germany, famous for exporting top-notch cars and machinery, right? But even they've been kind of overwhelmed by this massive surge of high-value tech and other goods coming from China. And it's this specific imbalance that was really the core driver, the main reason for all the friction that led to those talks in Beijing.
So, okay, the problem was crystal clear. But what did they actually achieve? What was the outcome? Well, the goal wasn't some magic wand to solve everything overnight. It was much more about laying some new, solid groundwork for the future.
So the key phrase that kept coming out of the meeting was this: a comprehensive strategic partnership. Now I know, that sounds like a bunch of typical diplomatic jargon, right? But stick with me, because it actually signaled some very real, very concrete outcomes.
When you break it all down, the agreement really had three key parts. First, they revived that strategic partnership with a renewed focus on industry, tech, and climate stuff. Second, and this is a big one, Beijing sent a signal that it's actually willing to lower some of those tricky non-tariff barriers for German companies. And third, they inked some modest agreements in areas like climate tech and animal health, just to get the ball rolling.
And here's the really crucial thing to remember. This was not some final signed and sealed treaty designed to fix everything in one go. Think of it more like a new roadmap. It's a foundational agreement that basically just sets the stage for much more detailed, nitty-gritty negotiations later on.
Okay, so a new roadmap, great. But what does that actually mean for Germany and China? Why should we care? What's in it for them?
Well, for Germany, the wins are pretty clear. They get more clarity in the market, they lower the risk for their companies, and they get some new investment momentum going, especially in the green tech space. And for China, this move really reinforces their whole geopolitical economic strategy. It helps them keep those vital trade corridors open with major industrial partners, which, let's be honest, is absolutely crucial with all the economic uncertainty in the world right now. And of course, the ripple effects don't stop there. They spread right into the financial world. An agreement like this really improves investor sentiment. But maybe even more importantly, it helps preserve the continuity of these absolutely vital supply chains. We're talking about sectors like automotive, chemical, and machinery. I mean, these are literally the backbone of both economies. So what you get is a much more stable platform for whatever talks come next.
But look, this one meeting between Germany and China, it didn't just happen in a vacuum, right? To really grasp why it's so important, we have to kind of zoom out and take a look at the much bigger picture.
What this visit really does is it perfectly shows Germany's core foreign policy strategy in action. You might hear it called balanced multilateral economic diplomacy, which is a mouthful, I know. But in simple terms, what it really means is this: engage with all your major partners. Don't pick sides.
And if you want to see that balancing act in real time, look no further than where Chancellor Merz is headed next, Washington. That right there tells you everything. This whole engagement with China is just one crucial piece of a much larger diplomatic puzzle that Germany is trying to solve on the world stage.
So all of this leaves us with one last really critical question. In a world that's just full of shifting global tensions, can this kind of balancing act from an economic powerhouse like Germany actually bring some stability to the table? Or is it just kicking the can down the road, delaying bigger, tougher choices that will eventually have to be made? Honestly, that is the multi-trillion-dollar question we all need to be watching.